Great men and women before us have spoken of a depression, especially after reaching our goals. In fact, it's because of reaching your goal, the expectation, the difficult decisions that you've had to make to be arbitrarily successful, the subjectivity and the hyper emotional passions of the pathway of an artist or a student. Yet it's never enough to really appease other people or to garner the love, the respect, or the sales that you want. You begin to understand the enemy that you're facing, and the enemy is resistance, the resistance to your vision. Yet this matters not if we're unwilling to look in the mirror. If you can't look at yourself to see what's wrong with you, all the world can do is reflect back what you refuse to see, and you can remain in that denial for as long as you wish. But once you get past the narcissism and the ego and overconfidence of victory, to really understand what my vision is personally, that viewpoint of success is just so, it's droll. It's the whole reason why I did what I did to begin with. Are you not doing all you can do already? Are you not using everything you can just to stay alive? If so, then, if you answer no, then you answer the issue. If you're not doing everything that you can be doing at this point to be respectful, to be obedient, to be successful within your own right and perspective of these people around you, you're that's it. You got to do everything that you can possibly do. The things that you didn't work. Now you got to try something new. You got to go on a different pathway. You can't be unwilling to shift your momentum, shift your direction, to accept this larger world around you, or just accept the idea that you're not at the place where you can be at, not because of the government, not because of racism, not because of sexism, but because of something inside of you. It might be what society is doing to you. It might be with all this stuff that here fucks with your head and makes you go crazy, at times. Or it projects other people that accept the pathology and they gain this artificial sense of success from the outside looking in. But ultimately, they're constantly looking outside of the window, trying to see what else is out there. The bar is no longer $50,000 a year in a nice house. We have people now that are willing to sleep in an apartment forever just to have their studio close to them because they want to be an artist. And some people go on to make millions of dollars. Some people are just happy to play music, or happy to write books, or happy to do public speaking. So the perspective of success that we attempt to hold ourselves to is ultimately limiting us from having real success, to have wealth, to have good health and wellness, to have, if you think having good grades is arbitrary, then at least having real knowledge is a form of success. Having an actual expertise in something, no matter what your science is, what your field is, have an expertise, have a skill that you can use so you don't starve and go hungry. Because once you solve that idea of starvation, a lot of the fear of trying and taking risk, it completely morphs your ideology and the whole way that you walk through life, because you're no longer limited by the only natural limitation that you can possibly face. If you can solve starvation, and not for everybody that you meet, solve your own starvation, you win. And that's not to maintain a scarcity mindset. It's quite the opposite, actually. Once you realize how easy it is not to starve to death, why do you need this job that you hate? Why do you need for me personally, why did I need 3 degrees? The way I was learning how to budget and ration food at 17, definitely helps me do everything I really need to get done and want to get done now that I'm almost 27. It's been a decade so far. The subjectivity, the jargon, and the actions change, but all you really essentially have to do to solve that problem, not the problem that I'm facing, not the problem of reaching your greatest dreams and you still have more to go, like on some Dragon Ball Z type shit. But as far as you didn't do everything that you could do, you didn't get the job done yet. You know, you can be an engineer, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer. You're going to have the same exact issue. Who are you? Who am I? You're going to have to look yourself in the mirror, regardless of your occupation, regardless of whether you're married, single, or you belong to the world, you know? You're going to have to stare yourself in the face. And I don't know, when I looked at myself in the mirror, I got a decade now, like I just said, of being 17 and not liking what I saw, even though everybody saw something great with so much potential that can do so many things. But I could have did so many things, and their field and their perspective of success, I would have never gotten my books done. I would have never met the people that I met to be able to help them. I would have never been at the level that God needed me at to use me, you know, to do his work and to really create some change on this planet. Because I know that I helped a lot of people. I know that what I create helps a lot of people. And if I was empowered to do more, if I was empowered with not the artificial, but the physical, realistic needs that we have, you know, you need money for everything nowadays. And that was my biggest limiting belief, you know, was I wanted to do everything until about a couple of years ago without money. I wanted to eat without, not necessarily eat without money. I had jobs and stuff like that. But I was working the job to eat, essentially, you know. That was all. But when it came to writing the books, and you think about how much energy it takes, how much time it takes, focus, it's a huge investment. Even before you get to the finances, like the finances of making a book are so simple compared to making the book. It might cost you $1,500, honestly, for the whole process of making a book. And to really push it where it needs to be, that it become a bestseller. And anything more you put above that mark, you're guaranteed to be a bestseller, but it'll take you about $1,500 coming from somewhere. The time and energy that it takes is years, man. If you can imagine working 2 years for only $1,500 a year, and if you can, you have no business clicking all away from this video. You need to listen. I'm not going to sell you anything. You know, we love talking about problems. We love to argue. We love drama. We love comedy. We love judgment. We love sin. We love money, drugs, judging for other people's perspective. You know, it's insanity when you really get down to it. Like, all the things you have to socially keep up, it's insane. Yet we're being held together by Marvel movies and DoorDash right now. For real. We're in the easiest time to be alive for the true citizens of Earth. People that are on my mindset. People that, as long as I eat, I'm good. I don't need... If you gave me $1 million, I would probably help 1 million people with it, more than likely. I don't need $1 million. I don't have, like, a physical need for that much money. Period. I just don't. I could probably earn it without any issue. But like I said, like $100,000, I'll be good. $70,000, I'm a sane human being, you know. It's the easiest time to be alive for someone like me, but it's being blocked by true maniacal evil. That things like education, healthcare, employment, support systems are all being marginalized by egoism, price tags, cold-hearted people, mindlessness, and this rationalized pathology of psychopathy, greed, and faithlessness. Like they're trying to force people, trying to create evil people within this mindset of not caring, selfishness. There's no belief within a God, let alone the Almighty Yehovah Yeshua, you know. And then you have all these people that think the world just needs to be hard, just needs to be difficult. You think black people are disadvantaged because you can't look at the entire scope of America, let alone the entire globe, to see how black people are doing or have been doing. or any other group of people for that matter, Asians, Latinos, white people, whatever. You can see that there are white people in this world that are struggling deeply and badly, just as if there are black people and Mexican immigrants in this country struggling. But to focus a spotlight on one group to not feel as bad about yourself, that's the mindset that we're being fed here. We're not being fed to stop finding problems, to stop judging people, to stop seeing, not to stop seeing sin, but to stop sinning, within itself. You're inevitably going to miss your mark. You're inevitably going to make mistakes. You're inevitably going to fail. So a fear of failure in this type of economy, this type of world right now, that's why you're poor. Because either you're taking risks you're not taking financial risks, you're taking risks with your life that can set you back 5 to 10 years, if not in prison, but 5 to 10 years in debt. We're making decisions that it was the pathway about 50 years ago to go to school, get a job, but before that, it was learn a trade. And that was it. Learn a trade. You can be 5 years old and you can start learning how to blacksmith. You start learning carpentry. You start learning how to fish. You have to start teaching your kids to feed themselves early on, because that's what creates a creative soul who's able to do anything. This mindset that we have right now, that you have to be institutionalized to know anything, it takes advantage because the institution isn't solving world issues. The institution isn't taking care of people. The institution isn't taking care of the institution itself. If it needs to be funded by all these things, if the entire American economy is funded on loans and IOUs and stocks and things of this nature, then we don't need to put these kind of constructs on people making $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year and under, when you know for a fact that it's all bullshit. The more you learn about financial literacy, the more you learn that the economy is not real. So you learn all these ways, not to manipulate the economy, but to maneuver through this system, that as long as you pay back your debts, you can do what you want. Essentially. You got to get to the point that you're tired of explaining your situation, because that's the reality. It's going to be like that until you die. No matter which way you look about it, even on a social level, you do something for somebody, they're going to want a favor back in return. A good deed deserves a good deed in return. So we have too many people trying to explain them ways out of this situation, and it should be a type of thing that a system like this would just fail. But if you can just keep raising the debt ceiling for certain people and then lower the debt ceiling because of others or for others, you have to get tired of explaining yourself to people, wondering who hears you, wondering who relates to you, wondering who's going to help you solve your problem, and wondering about getting all these people together to solve the issue. And you have to look in the mirror. I'm going to repeat that again because this is the third time I'm saying it. You got to look in the mirror and see, what the fuck can I do for myself? If you can't do for yourself financially, then do for yourself emotionally. If you can't do for yourself emotionally, do for yourself spiritually. If you can't do for yourself spiritually, that's when people do for themselves mentally, or they do for themselves financially. But don't lose 5 years of your life. Like, I had no choice. Because you're alive, I couldn't be. My first job was stocking fucking shelves at Acme, my dude. Like, I wasn't about to be doing that shit for 30 fucking 50 years. You couldn't sell me on some retirement plan bullshit with that. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't do the same thing for 5-10 years. And that's all I got any time or energy for. I got other things in life to get done, my dude. You need to show it. You need to live it. We fall for sweet words, broken promises, and emotional manipulation every day with these institutions, these corporations, and these politicians. Every single year we do it. But what's more important than whether or not they fooled you, whether or not you want to be awake or you want to be asleep, is just asking yourself the simple question, and please answer it: are you happy? Have you seen your family recently? Have you slept well? Have you eaten something today? Have you? And this question is like either or. These are real questions. Please send these to me and answer them. Have you traveled or have you done any DIY projects lately? Because some people don't want to travel. I'm the type of person that I want my home to be amazing. I don't want to go somewhere great to have to go back in a week or two. You know, I want my house to be my fucking sanctuary. You know, you got to remember who we are. Just keeping up with the Joneses. You want to emulate the life that you see on television. You're watching other people, and you hope that watching other people is going to make you happy. When you have an opportunity to live in a video game, you know, it's really like that. Once you, my mentor told me that shit, man. I didn't believe him. I thought he was crazy when he said it. Sorry, it's that corona. And he said that, you know, once you really give your life to Christ, you really follow God, life becomes like the video game. So if you're a guy who loves to play video games, it's like that. You're building skills, you're learning new things, you learn new prayers. You get to see, you know, people use spells against you, whether or not you want to use them or not. But you get to see the severity of the spiritual war that our world is in. And you get to see firsthand that literally every element of your life is engulfed in spiritual war. Your middle school experience was a spiritual war. Your elementary school experience was a spiritual war. The 5 generations of people before you that birthed you is a spiritual war that leads to generation. It's like, how do you have time to focus on greed and your arbitrary need for $1 million when there's so much within your bloodline, there's so much within you as a person? That's why meditation and prayer is so important and should be highly advocated and highly motivized to do both, not one or the other, to do both prayer and meditation, because you need it. There's so much within us already that's why having one partner is so important, because if you're an entire universe within yourself, there's no way that you're sleeping with all these people, because I've done it before, and you're exploring their entire universe. You're like landing on one planet, putting a flag in it, and then maybe you chill out there for a couple of months until you get enough fuel to go back home and they kick you off. You know, that's the reality. That's not life, though. We're fallen angels. We're the ones who failed God. We act like bitter children. We act like he's the one that disobeyed us. Like my son, he's not even a year old, but he acts like you did something wrong with him because he takes something away from you that would make you choke or would make you fall, would destroy you, you know, and you're so, the devil takes that God took this thing away from you. For me, it was wrestling, and later on, it was college. And everyone else thinks that you've done something so stupid. You know, they think that you just made the biggest mistake of your fucking life. But God knew these two things do not make you happy. You haven't seen your family, you know, and if you continue on this pathway, you're never going to see your family again. Like, the only things that are available to you after this, and there's other people that do it, but for me personally, how I took it, it's not, your life is not, that's the whole point. All these other people had an experience similar to you didn't have your experience. They didn't feel the way that you felt about it. There's people that loved it, and they coach now, they're in MMA. You know, I had no interest in wrestling for another 10 years. I wrestled for a decade. I wanted to do something completely different in college. And then the only way at that time, honestly, was to pay for college was to wrestle. So later on, I didn't wrestle in college. I got in there for scholarships, but there were just so many other things there. To bring it back to purpose, to bring it back to point, that the ego of it all, like the cockiness of it all, like people get a college degree and they just feel like everything is straight, and it's not. And that's the fucked up part of it all, you know. And I knew that walking into college, you know, I say it was like the circle of people that I was with, but I was in college. The circle of people I was all with wanted to graduate, you know, so there was no circle of people that I was with. There was no the 5 people nearest to you, because the 5 people nearest to me, wanted to do something different. There was a small voice inside of my head that said, "It's better this way, man. Like, I understand what they told you, and I understand what you see what everybody's doing, and that's wonderful. That might work for some people, but I'm your father, and I've created you, and it's not your way. That's not going to bring you joy. That's not going to bring you what you seek, and it's going to take it away from you." And that was a very difficult thing to process. It was a very difficult thing to hear. And it's the type of thing that other people don't want to hear. And that's why a lot of people struggle with religion. They struggle with following God, because he's going to take you in a pathway that no one else can understand. And the sad thing about human beings is that when they don't understand something, their immediate response is fear, and they go crazy. it's not really your wave. When we care more about food than drugs, money, or sex, we care more about living with nature, not against nature, not perverting Mother Gaia and God's design. We're not forced to be quadrillionaires and billionaires and feel guilty. It's one thing if you have people being billionaires and trillionaires because of their own merit, not because of human slavery. Hashtag every millionaire ever. It's not built on the back of other people. It's not built on the back of other people that are not millionaires doing labor and doing tasks. Then frickin' great. Most people don't want to be in control of other people. That's weird, right? Most people don't. We want dominion over the earth, which we were given. We don't want dominion over human beings in the earth, which we have no right to. We're not asking people to invest 20% of their wealth to their employees. Just do that. If you're a billionaire, invest 20% of your wealth into your employees. Just the same investments that you would make with your stock portfolio, the same investments that you would make into real estate. Don't cut corners with the human beings that have entire families and lives dependent upon your egotistical decisions. You lay off 3.5 million people because that's just how we've always done it. That's not how we're going to do this anymore, and I'm going to tell you that now. It's insane that we live and try to fight for this planet. Then you learn that it's the brainwashing from centuries ago. The brainwashing to remove us from God, to switch up God's message to this pathway of manifest destiny, which is not in the Bible. Sorry to admit that to you. That took us off track as a species. It's not, if you feel off track as an individual, you feel that way because the entire human species, race, is off track. We spend more time enslaving people and distracting humanity than advancing it, educating it, and allowing it to reach its fullest potential. All these mentally handicapped elitists need to stop attempting to control humanity. It's only like a child. You create rebellion and resistance. Instead, help the children, nurture them, and allow it to surpass you. Don't try to oppress it for 20,000 years, 2,000 years. Let your child grow and become an adult instead of labeling them as minorities, infiltrating their governments, and trying to destroy everything that they're building. We have all the answers to our problems inside our minds already. We've been surviving starvation, we've been surviving love and marriage for so long. All these marriages that you see lasting 20 years, 50 years, those marriages aren't all built upon abuse. Those marriages aren't all built upon adultery and lying to each other. There's some people that have been married for a very long time. I know this seems like it's coming out of the blue, but you have to understand the vision and the levels at this, that we need people on this planet that want to have families, those that plan to have families, not Planned Parenthood. Fuck a Planned Parenthood. A planned family is what you need. That you're thinking 5 years ahead, let alone 5 generations ahead. You're thinking 500 years ahead. When you throw something on the floor, you understand that that thing isn't, it's going to be there until you pick it up or someone else picks it up. You know, that's inertia, my dude. We have the answers to all these things in our head. We have enough space for everybody. There's no real issue as overpopulation. It doesn't exist. If your mind, if you're, this is how we solve overpopulation. If your mentality is that the world is overpopulated because you have 100 acres of land and you need $1 billion, then yes, you're going to believe that the world is overpopulated because not everyone, if there's a set amount of dollars on the planet, it's not going to happen. Not everyone's going to have $1 billion. Not everyone's going to have 100 acres. But if you were not there and you didn't have a mental illness and you didn't have generations of generational curses and inbreeding within your family, you wouldn't need that much money to begin with. And you could settle for about $70,000 in 5 acres. And then every single person on this planet would be Gucci. Considering that a lot of these people are related to each other or had families, if you weren't trying to remove people from their families, the world would be, once again, Gucci. The thing that we're trying to fight isn't in the mirror, but the only way to fight it is in the mirror, if that makes any sense to you. Once you work on your own life, you really understand what it is that makes you happy, what makes you feel successful, what brings joy into your life, and how you can provide provision for yourself and for your family. You know, I want to become a plumber or an electrician. I think it seems pretty cool. I wouldn't mind doing that for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. You know, but the set pathway that I had at that time period, no, it was not the way. It was not going to happen. Once you're able to change, not your goals, but you change the time period you have to reach your goals, you'll find joy. Because then you realize the reason you have a job that you hate right now is because it's going to take you 5 years. It might take you 2 to 5 years. It might take you 5 to 10 years to get where you need to be. Because whatever it is that you're trying to do on this planet, it needs 10,000 hours at least. And that's 10,000 hours just to mastery. Once you master something, you got to teach other people. So you need about 20,000 hours. You don't think that's going to multiply to more money, to more prosperity and more wealth? You don't have to force yourself through life following other people or feeling guilty for your existence or feeling guilty because you haven't reached a certain point yet. Maybe just like for you, like it is for me, like it was for me, that's not your pathway. That's not for you. It might work. Some people like to drink. Some people like to smoke. Some people like to do acid. Some people like to be sober. One thing may not be for you. You may not be able to get through this life without having a drink. And that's not something you should be ashamed of. That's, you know, you may need to smoke or something. Maybe like once a week or something. Maybe once a month. Maybe once a year in a decade. You know, we're different. And that's not anything, it's not, there's no superiority within that. There's plenty of black people that are not tall. There are plenty of black people that are not short. There are plenty of white people that are not fat. There's plenty of white people that are skinny. There's plenty of Asians with big feet. There's plenty of Asians with small feet. That's the point. There is similarities. You know, there's arbitrary things. That's the whole point of everything I just said. There's all these arbitrary things that we use to separate ourselves or predict some kind of outcome. And it doesn't matter. Because you're not supposed to be predicting the outcome. You don't know the outcome. You don't know these people. You can build a relationship with the person instead of thinking just because they're black or just because they're white or just because they're Asian. You can escape your own sense of limitation. Because there's no survival at that point. It's just racism. It's just sexism. It's just classism. It's just you not willing to put forth more thought into what the world can be. We have the answer to every issue that we face within us. All of it. And all the prayers to God do is help you be the person able to find that solution within you and to apply it to life for other people. What we want instead, that the devil is so willing to give us, is that they just give us the fish. They don't teach us how to fish. They just give us fish. They don't teach us how to find our own knowledge, how to do our own research. You have to go to the institution for that. I'm not saying that I'm tired of the institution. I'm not calling for a sense of rebellion. I'm not calling for anything crazy. You know, there's just certain standards in place within humanity that we should have. We should have treated that and addressed. This is whether we keep it the way it is or we don't keep it the way it is. I do got a few things to say. You know, right now we're discussing a $15 minimum wage, and I think that that's fucking retarded. And I think it's very greedy. The minimum wage should be at least $20 an hour. There are people making $100 an hour, paying themselves $100 an hour at that, and then they feel the need. Like, you have bills yourself. So here's my structure, here's my proposal, how to fix the entire fucking planet overnight. If we literally just started doing this tomorrow, we already have the coronavirus fear, we already have the pandemic, so if you took a wild chance and a wild shot, why not? There should be a $17 minimum wage. You are required to at least pay every single employee in your building $20,000. At least $20,000 annually for minimum wage work, for part-time work. That's 25 hours, 40 hours, and at most 60 hours. Because I know, and your contract, you know, with negotiations within that contract, full coverage for 401k, part-time and for second-time employees, this is to eliminate people working 2 to 3 jobs to make $20,000 a year, or to struggle to make 40. That's 2 people now able to work to earn $40,000 a year, which is not the most to live off of. No, it's not, but it's way more than what I have right now. It's way more than I've ever made since I've joined the workforce, and it's more than I would have made had I just had a high school diploma and didn't have some college education. The next level up from that is the bachelor's degree, and a bachelor's degree should be at least $35 an hour minimum wage. Absolutely. You spent 5 years. I did not finish college. You know, mind you that. I did not finish college, and this is what I believe. I believe that if someone has a college education, they at least got a bachelor's degree, and they have the amount of debt that they do, their education needed to have been worth it. It needs to be worth it. It needs to be meaningful that someone got a degree. We should not have a continental mindset while there's people in other nations and countries coming to America for an American education, and then the American citizens are saying that we're getting bad education over here. So $35 an hour, make the bachelor's degree worth it. This is not inflation. This is no Federal Reserve inflation. The current playing field that we are at, the current level that we are at, to see actual social Darwinism and social movement and mobility, $35 an hour minimum wage for a bachelor's degree at the same rate, $25, $40, and sometimes $60 a year. This would put the part-time bachelor's degree earner, you know, behind the highest worker, because if it's a hard work, that's the system. The people working the hardest at $17 an hour can still make more money than someone with a bachelor's degree. But a person with a bachelor's degree that did make that investment and is working very hard, you definitely should be at a higher level of the playing field. There's no argument within that. So the next level with it is a master's degree, a trade or skill. This is your union workers, construction workers, people, again, with master's degrees, people that have more specialization, that have a specific talent and a specific trait that serve the world, essential workers and all that kind of stuff. $70 minimum wage, because this is what a lot of people in general contracting and at that level are making anyway. But so that people can still afford their services and afford the things that are needed for professionals, $70 minimum wage, so you eliminate this massive greed and corruption, but you're still paying people that whose parents have never made $17 an hour. Their children can now make $70 an hour, and imagine what that new wealth, that new money can do besides just buy Versace and Fendi to artificially keep this materialism and consumeristic culture up. If you have a PhD or the equivalent of a PhD, a minimum of 150 an hour. You know, I'm not a policymaker. If you argue with those numbers because of whatever reason, that's fine. But there's just certain citizen rights that should come with that. We live in a capitalistic world that has been capitalistic and laissez-faire capitalistic for quite some time, yet financial education and financial literacy has never been mandatory. It's never been something that has been institutionalized. That's because it keeps many people disadvantaged. So we make arguments about what people can do with their wealth, but we don't show them how to manage their wealth at, let's say, $17,000 a year. And they pay the same bills that you pay, but they're supposed to make it work with 17,000, and you can't make it work with 25,000. So every citizen should be taught how to make a budget. They should be taught stock options, and I'm talking middle school, high school level. We should be developing 401ks as a sense of government right rather than Social Security. I would imagine as well that would solve the issue bipartisanly for Democrats and Republicans if we had Roth IRAs and 401ks for each American citizen, whatever. And we took from that, just like we take from taxes and we do take for Social Security, we should all be well off with this arbitrary Federal Reserve System, not just certain people. Then some people can still die way richer regardless, with the same amount of investments, the same amount of potential, if not more earning potential than they would have. And some people would still die poor because of personal decisions and in issues of merit. But at least equalize the playing field. We should have universal insurance, period. You are required by government. I don't even drive, and I know this. You're required by the government to have a license for your car, to have insurance for your car, or else you get a fine or you go to prison. Car insurance should then be a federal right, and all you have to do is sign up like the census. Likewise with healthcare and Medicare. If you're going to require people insurance, and insurance is a necessity, then you should provide the insurance. With that, to ensure those responsibilities are met, people should be given the right to vote universally within America. If you can prove your citizenship, all nationalized citizens will be recognized as citizens, but I would say we'll talk about that some other time. We'll talk about that next, actually. We should fix the food desert issue within America, that you have places that have grocery stores that serve spoiled meat and sell products, but we don't have access to fresh food for 0.5 to 10 miles for many people. You know, we need to be able to solve the food desert issue that we face in this country way before we solve any other issues with the new iPhone, the new Zune, or 5G. We should probably fix, the current state of the world for people that are here rather than attempting to enslave them once more. Child care should be universal. Social Security and Medicare should also be universal rights, or replace Social Security once more with a 401k retirement plan. We need to fix immigration for 5 to 10 years to ensure that these current rights are met for current American citizens first. I do not care how you got into the country, but if you are in the country at this point, I consider you a citizen. I probably worked with you before, not all of you. Let's get rights for those people first. While we're doing our yearly taxes and we're doing the census, let's make sure that these benefits are being met to people as well. And these aren't just kept in a secret. Like now, you got a select amount of people going to SNAP and going to WIC because only a limited amount. I know nothing about it. I know people that receive the benefits. I personally know nothing. I do not know how to go through that system, or even if I would qualify for the system. Moving forward with that, drug reform rehabilitation clinics should be just as prevalent as liquor stores, quite honestly with you. The amount of money that we spend on tobacco and liquor and drugs in this country, rather than we imprison people for using these things as well, but they build our economy. There are some people that only work a job to pay for their drugs, so they're only contributing to the American economy to eat, have shelter, and feed a drug addiction. but yet they are imprisoned for that. That's ridiculous. Psychological care and prescription medicine within this universal care idea. No more drug time for jails unless it's somebody who is trafficking or selling drugs. No more, period, within the country. No more sense of jail time for drug offenses unless it's a drug dealer. And even then, you got to be actually pushing some real weight to be taken away from your family. That's the only thing and the only source of income that you have. Let's fix your environmental issue first. Let's wean these people currently using and addicted to drugs first off of drugs, and then we can begin talking about imprisoning people for being street pharmacists. Drug tests for incidents, not for opportunity. Drug tests should only be had in case of something going awry, something going wrong, cases of DIFUS intervention, cases in which someone's being incarcerated, sadly. I can't really do too much about that. But drug testing for employment should be considered racist, bigoted, and just flat out illegal. I understand that some people choose not to use drugs, but there's some people that are only, I can function with or without. But there's some people that I know for a fact cannot function without certain medications or certain drugs that they use or CBD oil. They would not be able to get through their life, and they would still test positive and be limited within their job opportunities. With that, you would have more employers in place that didn't have that kind of fascist mentality to begin with. If we built more schools, we could build smaller schools for higher quality in local environments, and this is proven to solve the prison industrial complex issue. If your issue with prison industrial complex isn't wealth, can you imagine the type of economic prosperity that you would have if you had more people graduating, maybe not with my plan, but at least graduating from high school? Even if it's not someone's personal choice to go to college, they just still enter the trade school with a higher perspective of learning, a higher perspective of going through institutionalized education, because they would have had a positive experience. They would have known that they had the best resources afforded to them. We weren't playing these egotistical games of paying yourself more money and your school can't afford erasers for its students. They can't afford new books for their students. That's ridiculous. With that, there should be a new budget set nationally with our taxpayer money instead of building more prisons, instead of expanding our military for 5 to 10 years. For K through 12 education reform, the American K through 12 education system should be the greatest system on God's green earth. We should have a renaissance within this country yearly as a right. That should be an American experience, is a yearly Renaissance movement, a yearly fair of inventions that prosper and lead to a greater humanity, not robots and AI and retarded shit like that, but actual things that an intelligent person and not someone who is mentally ill would think is needed for the world, like farms and, housing, not we're going to spend $5 billion to maybe colonize Mars instead of not investing the same $5 billion towards solar energy. No more of this retarded thinking. We're going to focus on life and life more abundantly. We're going to focus on life and life lived more joyfully. We're going to focus on life and life lived more equally. We are no longer going to focus on how you lost faith in humanity and how you don't believe in God and how it makes you so sad that other people are breathing and how, much you love self-isolation and all these other antisocial mental disorders and habits and behaviors, because we have families now. Once again, this is for people that are focused on the next 5 generations of their children. Because if we fix this once, and we fix this properly, we don't need to have there's a beautiful, 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 beautiful movement that happened in Europe that was called the Glorious Revolution. They did not like their tyrants, they didn't like their fascists, they didn't like the Whig and Tory system, so they stopped it and they voted it out and they built parliament afterwards. Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? So why am I being so amicable and so nice to a class of slavers, manipulators, assholes, and just general all-around jerks? Because I don't think that every single one of these people who are rich know that they're evil. I feel like you shroud yourself in so much tolerance bullshit today in this day and age of all the things that you have to accept and all the things that you have to turn a blind eye to consider continue living on this planet. That, who am I to judge? What would I be? I know the type of, that's my whole point. That's why I had to take this journey to not focus anymore on being on varsity. To not focus anymore on how evil it is and how mean it is that someone has more money than me and they made these financial decisions and I don't want to do that. I don't mind being financially literate. I don't mind working for a living. I don't mind any of these things. I mind that I don't make enough money doing it, and the system is set in a way that I'm not making enough money doing it, and you still give me a hard time about it. And you don't raise that minimum wage, and you don't advocate for it. We're watching people starve to death. We're watching people suffer. We're literally watching children grow up to turn to a life of crime, or turn to the streets, or turn to become drug abusers or opioid addicts. So you don't feel like I'm just talking about black people, but we're talking about real life issues for anyone. There are white gangs, there are black gangs, there are Mexican gangs, there are Asian gangs, there's gangs everywhere. So gangs should be our focus, and gangs should be our issue. You should not just be inside of black neighborhoods arresting black men because you're a racist. You don't get to do that. You don't get to hate white people because of something that happened 500 years ago with, if you met any like relatives they don't even fucking agree with or don't even fucking like to begin with. Not everyone's the same, period. You have to escape that mindset for yourself, period, of judgment. Release it. If someone really is a racist, life is going to solve them. We can keep them out of our government, though. We can keep them out of our school system. But the less active that we are in establishing our vision and establishing our rights and really showing what it is that we want for this world, the more people are left to assume your perspective. So it's no longer about my sense of perspective. It's no longer about what I feel is right or wrong. It's no longer about why do you care so much about other people. It's about people have a right to be the fullest that they can be in what they believe. If your son or daughter wants to be a dancer, why stop that because you don't think they're going to make enough freaking money to do it? You can dance mornings and work nights. You can dance mornings and you can work at night. You're not going to be a stripper because that's what you lead it to. I'm going to find any way to... Your soul is going to find any way it can to get the closest it can to God's message. You have some people that are in the Illuminati that believe in God. Lady Gaga, who says she loves Jesus, has a great relationship with Jesus, but look at the music that she's forced to make. Look at what the institution has done to her. Katy Perry's complaining about the issues that she's going through. We all look at Kanye West, but no one asks Kanye West, hey, Kanye, are you okay? You cool, bro? You tired of me judging you because your mother passed away, and that's a very traumatic thing for any person to go through, but I didn't like you to begin with, so I love Kanye West, I love Kanye West. But even, I don't think these people know what they're doing is wrong, because they're attempting to do the exact same thing that we're taught to do. They did their job, they did their part, and some people got there because they actually were talented. Some people got there because they did actually bring in $5 million, $500 million, $2 trillion. Some of these people actually are financial wizards and financial geniuses that understand how this system works, and they are empowered to help other people, and they do it. They do give opportunities, they do give jobs, they do attempt to give health benefits to other people. There are good people out there. But if we're trying to sift out the good people through skin color and personality, and not because of merit, not because of hard work, not because of what our expertise is, because you wanted to subject us and you wanted to limit us, We really need to redefine and choose the kind of life that we want and the kind of life that we wish to live here on this planet. Because there's no need, there's no requirement to have a terrible life. But if our mentality is that from a very young age, this is the only life that I've known, this is the only life that my parents have known, this is the only life that their parents have known, there needs to eventually be a force that steps in there and says, like, hey, there's a different way. And for a lot of kids, that's all they ever needed, to become a doctor, or become a dentist, or become a neurosurgeon. That's all they ever needed, was to know, hey, what is a rocket scientist? That's a real thing. That's not just science fiction. If you knew the way that people were surviving and making money, if you knew all the ways, not just having a job, not the stuff you find on Indeed, but the stuff that people have just been doing to live, you would realize how big your options are. You would realize how more possible it is to become a singer or a rapper or a dancer or an engineer. You would realize how easy it is to go to college versus becoming an actual coal miner, or becoming a fisher. I would like to compare the average BA program to becoming a master fisherman or a commercial fisherman. I would love to see that, or electrician. There is no value differential within that. There's a value differential within the choices that we make. And honestly, and this would be one of the closing points, the way that we utilize time on this planet and our perception of time on this planet is truly and honestly warped. I'm not going to go deeply into it, because when you talk about time gets weird, because time is weird. There's actually 13 months. Look it up. Yeah, just look it up. There's 12.9 months because of all the extra days and such of the week, and you get to leap years and stuff like that. We rob ourselves of time. We delay small tasks. If you set yourself 8 tasks to do, and you miss 3 tasks here, and tomorrow you miss 3 tasks, and the next day you miss 3 tasks, within those 3 days, you've lost an entire day already. Because you basically set 8 tasks, 9 tasks out to do, you don't get those done. That little bit every day counts. That one assignment that you miss, or that 100 words that you could have wrote a day to finish your term paper or to finish your thesis paper, but you just didn't do it, that adds up to you cramming at the last minute. What's happening right now in our lifetimes is that we're waiting too long to help people. We're waiting too long to show people that we love them. We're waiting too long to build relationships with people. We're waiting too long to just take a leap of faith and do the things that make us happy. And some of us are dying before we've reached our soul's purpose. And that's never supposed to happen. So the soul's purpose at that point is to become a martyr. People say that the greatest wealth is in the cemetery, because that's where all the dreams died. Can you imagine all the solutions, all the ideas, the books that people would have written, produced, or patented if they knew how to patent, if they had the money for a patent? If someone didn't steal the idea and not know what to do with the idea, so they threw it away. If people didn't die before we recognized it and said, you're an amazing cook and you should cook. There's nothing wrong with that. You're an amazing mother. You should be around more kids, because not everyone is. Not everyone's a great mother or a great father, even if they choose to be in the picture or not. It's definitely someone's fault that we're like this, but I don't want to harp on racism. But we've had this Anglo-Saxon European perspective of life for about 1,000 years now, maybe. It didn't work. Can we try something different? That's not racist. That's not mean. That's not bad. They got a turn. They got a chance. I think at this point, every culture has been a major culture at some point in time on the planet at this point in time. But maybe the Asians, maybe if you look back in history, that's not the case. Maybe we should just do what's best for people and humans and animals and things that are alive, so we don't have to figure out interspecies rights or figure out robotic rights or figure out the rights of AI, because we haven't mastered human rights or civil rights yet. We really need to dial ourselves back and humble ourselves as a species under our creator or just under our betters at some point in time of that. That there are people who don't have college degrees who are insanely rich. So let's stop limiting people. We don't have to live like savages. We don't have to have a riot. We don't have to have a war. What we need to be willing to do is stand up and state what it is that we need to live. There are people that we all have bills to pay. We know how much money it takes to pay bills. We can ensure that the poor citizens have enough money to at least live. Why are we punishing people because of generational poverty? On purpose. If someone squanders $1 million in the lottery, that is their own fault. If someone is generationally deprived of opportunities and education and the proper resources to feed their family, but they're still dependent upon the same government holding them back, that is a form of slavery within itself, and the 13th Amendment is completely against that. We have to stop settling for what we've known, because what we've known so far has not worked. And the things that we've known way longer and way further back than we know now, that worked perfectly well, that we no longer do. So if we're going to have a new age of technology, we're going to have a new age of science and a new age of thinkers, and a new age of lawmakers, you want to rewrite the Constitution, why don't we rewrite it so that it's better than it was before, not so it benefits less people? We should be trying to benefit and help as many people as possible on this planet. That's the answer to life. It's service. It's helping people. Why else, in all these philosophical movies that you find where there's a wise hermit out on their own, why does this hermit help this person? Because the key to life is helping other people. If we don't teach our kids that, what are we teaching them? If we don't teach our kids that the value of a person is within them, it's not in their bank account, what are we teaching our kids? So then you have a generation of materialistic, overly entitled, lazy, rich narcissists who are destroying the planet. Because they don't think about other people, they don't think 5 years ahead, they don't think about having kids, they don't want to have kids. They're living for themselves, and they're leaving so much damage behind them because, once again, that small decision adds up. We've oppressed Black America and the entire African continent with that mentality for about 500 to 700 years now, have we not? Why are we not holding the world to that standard? And that's not to abuse and manipulate and have demonic tyranny upon them. That's to say that it was an arbitrary standard to begin with. We don't know how long the Earth's going to be here. We don't know how long we're going to be alive. But let's focus this life on helping other people, being of service to our community and to those around us, to helping people reach their highest point possible, and no longer attempting to limit people, to murder people, and to rob people because we feel like we should have had. It's going to take some time until people can reach a spiritual level to accept God. You know, it takes a lot of spiritual maturity to understand that there's a higher force of consciousness and existence far beyond us, far beyond any sense of aliens or extraterrestrials that you might conceive that might be all-knowing and all-powerful. They're not. There's only one, that's the Almighty. But that's my piece, that's my dig. So if Donald Trumpy, if someone knows Donnie, and they want to share this with Donnie to let him know how you can win his election, it'll be to actually follow this plan and to be the first orange president, not the first white supremacist president to openly be a white supremacist, but to be the first white president from a white supremacist family that decides to not be racist, that decides not to be a wasp, decides not to be an asshole, and actually decides to fix the planet. That would be wonderful. If not, send it to Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden or some lawmakers within your community that can take this advice and run with it. Because we really need to fix the minimum wage. We really need to reinstate our civil and citizen rights in this country, or else people are going to want to no longer be American citizens. That includes Americans. We're losing an information war. We're losing a cultural war right now. Let's not lose the entire American country over greed and Satanism and sin. Let's try to fix this issue for everybody involved. because there are a lot of us involved right now. There's a lot of us with a lot on the line, and there's a lot of other nations and countries that look up to us. If we can solve it in America, we can definitely solve it on this planet. In God Almighty's name, I pray for you. I pray for your family. I pray for everyone you've ever met. I pray for your joy. I pray for your happiness. I pray for your abundance. I pray for your health, and I pray for a full recovery. I pray that your dreams do come true as long as they're not crazy, but I pray more so for you to become the person that's necessary to make your dreams come true. For you to go through what is necessary in order to be the person capable of maintaining your dreams and your goals and your ambitions. For you to find the discipline. For you to find the sense of investment. For you to be able to really see beyond yourself and beyond this moment at times to reach your wildest dreams and everything that you've ever wanted on this planet. And then know after that is met, you can do whatever you want to do. But before that is met, you're going to be limited, and do not judge yourself for that limitation. In God's almighty name I pray. Amen. If you enjoyed the video, please share it with your friends that might be in need. And thank you for your time and effort. Blessings and amen.